we go.
Wow, the last 24 hours have been absolutely hectic. Everybody should know by now that Alexander Isak went nuclear and sent his message on his social media. Please check out my last video if you want to hear my comments on that. In this video, I want to deep dive into Newcastle's response and just summarize my views on it. First of all, I think it was very swift. I think Newcastle's communications department, I'm happy that they were awake at that time of the night. Alexander Isak chose to release his statement on the evening of the PFA Awards. The PFA Awards in which he was voted into the Team of the Year. Is that possibly a reason? I think it's probably him just upping the ante in terms of trying to push a move out of the club. But I was really, really pleased to see Newcastle's response on their website. So if just going to go through it quickly. We are disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Alexander Isak this evening. We are clear in response that Alex remains under contract and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official. Now I want to get into this club official business, that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes and we listen to their views. Okay? As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team and our supporters in all decisions, and we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. So that's the key bit over there, conditions of a sale that we need to look into. And then they also go on to say, we do not foresee those conditions being met. And then it wraps up with saying that this is a proud football club with proud traditions and we strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of the family and will be welcomed back when he is ready to rejoin his teammates. This is obviously something which Eddie Howe has continuously said in terms of wanting him to be part of the team, and can't wait for him to be back in training, etc., etc. I mean, where we are today, 20th of August, we're a million miles away from that. Although he did pitch up for training today, so well done, Alex. There's basically two main points. The first one is that no commitment has ever been made by a club official. This is partly where I sympathize with Alexander Isak. My view on this is that Alexander Isak was made a promise, a verbal promise, by either Amanda Staveley or somebody who's no longer at the club, possibly Staveley or possibly Mitchell. I don't think Eddie Howe is involved in this. I think if he was involved in this, I think this would have been wrapped up slightly differently. But basically what I think happened is Staveley went to Alex and said, look, I'm going to try and get you a better contract. Or if we can't do that, we'll let you leave for X amount. What we are led to believe is that Alexander Isak was not offered an improved contract. He was, however, offered an improved contract recently to make him the club's top earner, and he's rejected that categorically. And he has his mindset on leaving the club and going elsewhere to challenge for silverware. And he can't see that happening at Newcastle. So Newcastle's comment saying that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alexander can leave. You've got Alexander Isak saying that there's been promises broken. Now, are these promises made verbally over a cup of tea or in training or in a meeting? I don't know what world Alexander Isak is living in, but in the real world, when you're a grown-up and things involve your employment, things have to be done in writing. I mean, I don't know what world Alexander Isak is living in where he thinks this is playground chat where you can say something when you can say something to somebody and that person can just say, no, you didn't, prove it. Prove that these promises were made. As far as we are led to believe, the promises were either a pay increase or allowing him to leave the club. But this is where the second part of Newcastle's statement comes in terms of we've been clear that conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. What this basically means is that Newcastle were and are prepared to sell Alexander Isak so long as certain conditions are met. Those conditions are number one, a sufficient fair market transfer fee. Number two, we can find a replacement for Alexander Isak. Both of those things haven't happened. So therefore, you can't leave, my friend. That's as simple as that. If he's crying about not being left because somebody promised him to do something, I think he needs to grow up and realize the world he's living in. I've heard a lot of people say that this is a bit of a player power versus club power argument. At the end of the day, this is about black and white. What can you prove? What contract do you have for your employment? His contract states that he gets paid £140,000 a week. We were led to believe it's 120. Some people are saying it's 140. For argument's sake, let's just say it's within the 120 to 140 range. That is his weekly salary. On base salary, he's on £6.2 million a year. If you really got the balls to come out on social media and say that promises were broken, come and tell us who broke those promises. Was it Stavely? Was it Mitchell? Was it Howe? Was it PIF? Who made these promises? What were these promises? If you're going to cry about it, make sure you can back up these claims. Let's say these promises were made. I do think Newcastle were trying to honour a sale, but conditions have not been met. The biggest irony here is Ekitike. Newcastle were chasing Ekitike a couple of seasons ago, before he went to PSG. He turned Newcastle down to go and sit on PSG's bench. It didn't work out for him at PSG. He went over to Frankfurt, scored a load of goals there last season, and he's become the player that Newcastle scouted him and thought that he was going to become. It's basically blocked Newcastle from getting Alexander Isak's replacement, and it's blocked Isak going to Liverpool. How is that Newcastle's fault? This is not Newcastle's fault. Liverpool have shot themselves in the foot here massively. If they wanted Isak, they should never have gone for Ekitike in the first place. Would Ekitike have come to Newcastle? Who knows? We'll never know. We did bid for him. He turned us down. He went to Liverpool to double his salary, reportedly for 250k. So a little bit of a no-brainer. If Liverpool come in for you for 250k, Newcastle come in for you for 120k, there's only one place the guy's going to go. It's obviously going to be Liverpool. So from Alexander Isak's perspective, I would be pissed off at Liverpool, not Newcastle in this instance. The other point I think we need to think about here is if Liverpool came to Newcastle with £140 million and let's say 5 million add-ons, let's say around the £140 million mark, I think, and this was done behind closed doors, and nobody knew that Newcastle had an offer for £150 million. Newcastle could have gone to the market and possibly found a replacement for Alexander Isak. But because everything was made public, everyone would have known Newcastle's got £150 million burning a hole in their pockets. Why, if you're selling a player to Newcastle, why would you not try and get as much of that as possible? There is no striker currently in world football that we can get to replace Alexander Isak. It was supposed to be Ekitike, it was supposed to be Sesko, but none of those two things happened. Therefore, I'm sorry, my friend, you've got to stay. I think Newcastle fans are now counting the days towards the end of the transfer window. The only thing we really want to happen is to get in Callum Wilson's replacement, whether or not that's Johan Wieser from Brentford, whether or not that's Ollie Watkins. Today, Brentford rejected a £40 million offer from Newcastle. They've got their replacement in Otara from Bournemouth, but they're obviously going to try and squeeze Newcastle as much as they can. PIF do not want to sanction the purchase of a 29-year-old player, although he scored 19 goals last season. He has absolutely zero resale value. Don't forget, he's also got 1 year left on his contract. This transfer window has been absolutely crazy in terms of the domino effects of certain players going. We did think that once Otara went to Brentford, that would just automatically mean Visa comes to Newcastle. But as I said before, where does this leave Alexander Isak? I'm going to make a prediction over here. Liverpool are going to come to Newcastle with an improved offer. I think it'll be a British record transfer fee around the £130 million mark. I think Newcastle will flat out reject that offer. I think we'll see Alexander Isak go even more nuclear at that stage. But give it 1 or 2 months, we might we might see him back playing for Newcastle. The Champions League starts in the middle of September. I can see Isak being reintegrated back into the squad around mid-September, but we just desperately need to get a number 9 in. Whether or not that's someone on loan, whether or not we bite the bullet and give Visa an extra £5 million, we need someone to score goals for us. The next Premier League game for Newcastle is against Liverpool at St James's Park on Monday night. That atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric. I think the Geordie fans are going to let out a lot of frustration and a lot of anger. Let's see if that translates back to the players on the pitch. I do think it's a shame that so much focus has been put on a player that doesn't want to play with us compared to the 4 signings that we've made in Ramsdale in goal, Ramsey in the midfield, obviously Elanga down the right, and Malik Chow in the central defence. Newcastle have had not a bad transfer window. I do want to give a shout out to Mark McAdam this evening on Sky Sports News. So basically, Mark did get a lot of grief during the course of the season where he was regularly reporting that Alexander Isak was going to Arsenal during the course of the season. A lot of Newcastle fans got upset by this and he got a lot of stick for it. But if you listen to what he said tonight on Sky Sports, he was waxing lyrical about Newcastle being a big club. New players want to come here. We've not had a bad window. We've improved the floor, not the ceiling of our club. Chow is a good replacement for Fabian Schär. We've been dying out for a right winger. We've now got Elanga. Ramsey's going to give us great cover in the centre of midfield and an upgrade on Sean Longstaff. And Ramsey's arguably a better goalkeeper than Dubravka, who went to Burnley earlier on in the window. So to wrap it up, well done to Newcastle for responding very promptly to Alexander's little social media post last night. Welcome to the communications department. Well done for the tone of the message about being very calm, cool, and collected, standing your ground, sending a clear message to the current players of the club. But also, I think we should start focusing on the actual players. Let's focus on Bruno. Let's focus on Tonali, Joe Linton, Dan Burn, the boys who actually want to be there and are flying the Newcastle flag. Let me know in the comments, how do you think this is going to turn out? Do you think Liverpool are going to come back to the table with an improved bid? Do you think Newcastle should just let Alexander Isak go? And what do you think is going to happen long term with Alexander Isak if he stays at Newcastle? If you like what you're hearing, please do give us a like and a subscribe. And don't forget.
Here we go.